speak to the town fee.
You know? Funny. Phil, help me just stay on target here, okay? Just help me stay on target. Oh, you need me to sign them, right?
I've already signed it, yeah.
I thought you were a stickler for the rules, like.
Well, but what he said is amending the determination. I'm okay with attempt versus a run. What I really want to do is make that guy the shit up.
Instead of in the director's comments doing a referendum comment, to say, hey, this is what we've been doing, it's been so successful, can we all vote and agree on it?
Perfect. Yeah, yeah. All right.
So I thought something today about something. That let's do justice by doing it time and time.
Oh, that's good. We need more chickens.
One minute I'm hot, and cold.
And affirm that the board met earlier today in executive session for the purpose of discussing and considering contracts and discussing matters involving violations of the declaration and regulations for which a member, his family members, tenants, guests, or other invitees are responsible.
It's another way. It's open session and affirm that the board met earlier today in
Sorry,
executive.
got the other one.
Yeah, go ahead and read that one.
I move the board enter into open session and affirm that the board met earlier today in executive session for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel.
Motion made and seconded to enter into open session and affirm that the board met earlier today in executive session for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, Terry.
I confirm that a quorum is present and proper notice was sent to all members of record.
All right, well, let's go. All right, Walt.
I move the board approve the agenda.
Second. Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, motion passes unanimously. Terry?
I move the board approve the minutes of the May 1, 2021 regular meeting of the board.
Second.
Motion made to approve the minutes of the May 1, 2021 regular meeting of the board. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, it is now time for Employee Excellence in Service. Phil? Okay. Do we want, okay. It might be easier to use the podium. What do you think?
Afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you. Phil Rodenberg, General Manager. We're here to recognize our employees of the quarter. We have Excellence in Service Award that we give out quarterly, and this is the first time we've been able to get back together to do this. And Jennifer's going to assist me, and Karen Mollard has the certificates. And so today we'll be recognizing 2 individuals and 1 team. We like to try to get the team recognition as well. So our first individual that we're going to recognize is,
Excuse me.
that's a good lead-in, Eric Barnes of the Golf Pro Shop. So Eric, if you could come forward, and Jennifer's going to read the certificate.
This Excellence in Service Award is in recognition for excellent service during the first quarter of 2021 for ensuring a safe environment for playing golf during the COVID pandemic, assumed various golf pro duties such as coordinating tournaments, marking the course, placing boundary stakes, scoring, and making announcements for tournaments. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. There you go.
Just a couple of words about Eric. Right now, we don't have a golf pro. We're recruiting a golf pro, and we have a couple of finalists, so I hope by the first week of June, if not the second week of June, we'll have our golf pro in place. But in the meantime, the show must go on, and Eric is one of the leads in the pro shop, and he picked up and just continued on, and we appreciated that he kept the continuity of the operation going. You mentioned all the great things he had done, like the out-of-bounds markers was a priority of the golf committee, so we wanted to definitely get that done before the year got started. A little about Eric. He's been with us since March 27th, 2019. He was nominated by Kim Moorfield, who's also in the pro shop, and a lot of folks know Kim. And I wanted to recognize him for improving the quality of service, improving productivity, and demonstrating teamwork and cooperation. Eric lives in the community. He and his wife moved here in 2015 from Ohio, and he worked for several years for the district as district sales manager for American Greetings Corporation. So you all be familiar with that. Eric has had a family living at LOWA and was attracted to the location because of our golfing community, and he's an active golfer, and his favorite thing about the job is interaction he has with the people on the golf course. And we really appreciate that, and thank you so much for everything you do, and I'm glad we could recognize you. This is a certificate that entitles you to a day off with pay, and it also has an amount of $50 for you. I couldn't remember what our amount was. I didn't want to say 1,000 if it was only 50. No, I knew it was probably around 50, but thank you, and glad we could recognize you in this way.
Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. We have another person from the pro shop who's not here, but will read his certificate as well. And I appreciate the help that Karen Mollard is giving us here. She's our HR manager. And so this certificate goes to Matt McKenna, who's our cart barn attendant. So if you could read Matt's.
All right. This certificate is awarded to Matthew McKenna, lead bag and cart attendant, for recognition for excellent service during the first quarter of 2021, for 1, tireless efforts to help members access carts due to COVID restrictions, 2, training cart barn staff to emphasize excellent customer service, and 3, researching best value cart leasing options for LOWA. Thank you, Matthew.
Okay. we'll make sure that gets to him, and also he gets day off with pay and the $50. Okay, a little bit about Matt. If you don't know Matt, he's been at the pro shop quite a while, and both of these individuals that we're recognizing, they were there during the time when golf was surviving well during the COVID months, and they were thriving, and so a lot had to be done. He was there when the golf cart situation came up, where we couldn't have two to a cart unless you came together in a car or were close family members. So there was a lot of adapting that had to be done during that time, and that's why Kim Moorfield also recommended that we recognize Matt and his efforts with the golf carts, but also with training the staff. He's been there for quite a while. Matt came to us 20 years ago. He started in March 2001, so he's been there quite a while. Matt moved here in 2000 from Connecticut. He loves to play golf. His favorite part of the job is getting to know the members and seeing them regularly on the golf course. He runs his own business for painting and pressure cleaning in the area, and he's just a great guy to have on the team. So thank you, Matt, if you're hearing this out there, and please, we'll pass it on to him when we see him. All right, Matt. All right, now to the team award. Team award goes to the clubhouse team. And so if you could, we have Ryan Richardson with us, the clubhouse manager. He nominated the clubhouse team, as did Sarah O'Toole, one of the assistant managers. So if you could read that certificate.
Okay. This certificate is awarded to the clubhouse staff in recognition for excellent service during the first quarter of 2021 for working extra hours as a result of reduced manpower, 2, making an extra effort to keep members safe by following CDC pandemic restrictions and recommended safety precautions, and 3, performed needed tasks outside of normal duties to provide seamless and optimum customer service to LOWA patrons. Thank you.
Thanks. So not only did Eric not only did Ryan and Sarah nominate the group, but also Eric Fieber and our chef, Robert Hobel, also nominated the staff. So here's a situation where Amenity had to be shut down, had to modify their approach, they had to adapt and overcome these situations. And if you recall, we did home delivery for a while, then we did carry out for a while, and then we could open on a limited basis, and we could open on the deck. And for a while, we were the biggest outdoor venue within, what would you say, 20 miles? That was open and available. And so all during this time, the staff is having to think about, well, how do we do this? How do we overcome all these issues? And there was a lot of teamwork involved to getting it done. So we wanted to recognize the team. We're going to think of something special we can do for all of you. We won't make you cook your own meal for recognition or anything like that. So to be determined what we'll do for the entire group, so everybody gets a chance to be recognized. But we appreciate it. You got through to the other side, and now it looks like there's some really great days ahead. We've got weddings coming back. We've got big events coming back. We got the concert on the Point coming up. It just looks like really great days ahead for Clubhouse and also for Fairways. So thank you. Appreciate everything you're doing. All right. All right, good idea. Coming up here.
Okay, we are now at the time in our agenda where it's time for member comments on unfinished and new business agenda items and member general comments. We have some members in the audience. We're going to recognize you first. Let me see. Come up to the podium and please give your name, section, and lot number. Remember that disruptive comments, including criticism of a personal nature, are out of order, and you have 3 minutes. Who's first?
Yep, just come to the podium.
The speakers are pointing away, and I'm kind of hard of hearing, so a lot of what was said by you, I didn't
Oh,
hear.
I'm so sorry.
That's
Okay.
okay. My name is Nicole Pappas. I live in Section 3, Lot 130. Lake of the Woods recently installed a wooden housing for a porta potty at Pleasant Grove Beach. Some people would say within spitting distance of my house. My preference is to be a little more accurate, so we measured it. It's 25 feet from our side door and 32 feet from my kitchen window. We're aware that porta potties are being installed at all the beaches. However, we don't know if this is in response to requests from beachgoers or as a perceived need by the homeowners association. We don't know if a formal census was completed to determine the actual need and the requirements for the facilities in question. However, we do know that feedback from us was not solicited and therefore not taken into consideration. We must submit requests to the homeowners association and receive approval for any construction on our home, and we cannot build within 50 feet of the lake. It therefore seems appropriate that the HOA provide equal consideration to us when building a structure within 25 feet of our home. It is even more appropriate that the homeowner association contact us when installing something with known significant smell and sanitation issues, such as a porta potty. Foul smells, chemical odors, and potential unsanitary conditions are of particular concern to us. The distance to the porta potty at Pleasant Grove Beach is close enough to create discomfort and of fecal and chemical particles wafting into the window where we prepare our meals and we eat. There are many codes and requirements regarding porta potties, though we can find none that indicate porta potties are required at the LOA beaches. Our request is that the wooden housings be dismantled immediately, and any current and/or future plans to install restrooms at the neighborhood beaches be terminated. We look forward to your cooperation on this matter. I do have copies of the letters for each of you. I would like to ask also that each of you do two things when you go home today. The first is to go outside your house and stand by your kitchen window, and then take 12 steps away from your kitchen window and turn around. That's about 32 feet. 32 feet is roughly from this orange line to the second white line here, depending on how big of steps you take. And when you turn around and look at your kitchen window, think to yourself, I am a porta potty, and I am this close to that kitchen window. The other thing I'd like you to do is to drive by Cumberland Beach. Look at the porta potty at Cumberland Beach. The location of that porta potty is inexcusable. The family that lives there has to walk out their front door every single day and see a porta potty. It is like that, and the door to the porta potty faces their driveway, faces their front door. I know things happen, and sometimes the process is followed, but the end result is not satisfactory. It's okay to admit that. It's okay to say mistakes are made. This was a mistake, and we have no understanding, no knowledge why it was even done. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another member in the audience who wants to make a comment? Anybody else? Hello, sir. State your name, lot, and section.
Mike Ambrose. I'm in Section 3, 133, directly across the street from the porta potty in question.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add to what Nicole had mentioned was, asking for a courtesy of a contact to us who are immediately impacted by this. One neighbor in particular who's gone above and beyond to be not just a neighbor, but a professional, donated a set of steps to the beach, which Mr. Rodenberg was there for the dedication of those steps, donated the sign at the beach to make sure he included everything that we're looking to enforce at the beach. He was not contacted as well for this issue. And I just think it's unprofessional. It's not necessary. I mean, if he came to us and say, well, we talked to 90% of the people that enjoy the beach each month, and 80% of those say they want a porta potty, because we live there. I've been there for 13 years. I've never heard people question, why isn't there a porta potty? And again, too, one thing that wasn't brought up is that thing takes up 2 parking places, which it is already undernourished, so to speak, for parking spots. So where do people park? On our lawns, in front of our homes. And it is every summer that we have to deal with this. So we've got to go out and put cones out and tape off areas that people don't destroy our property. So we're 2 less on that as well, and for serving a purpose that I don't think it serves. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience who wants to make a comment? No? Okay. Now, this is also a meeting that's via Zoom. Our meeting facilitator is taking everyone off of mute for a moment, so please say, "I want to speak," if you would like to be recognized. Again, members have 3 minutes to make their comments. Please begin with your name, section, and lot number. And remember that disruptive comments, including criticism of a personal nature, are out of order. Taylor, do we have anyone?
I'd like to speak.
Okay,
Ashley here also would like to speak.
okay. Let's start with the first one. Ashley,
Uh,
Am I on?
yes.
All right, so on the agenda today, I think is you have a flow application for a project from the equestrian committee. And I have taken the lead on the fundraising for this, and it's called the Riding Scholarship Program. And what the committee wants to do is to provide opportunities for young people that live in the lake to experience the horseback riding, and particularly those who have not had an opportunity to do so. So right now, the Equestrian Center charges $240 for a package of 5 lessons. And what we intend to do is to award scholarships in that amount. So it'll be 5 lessons. And we plan to do the first one award by August. And we currently have enough committed donations to cover that. And we may be able to do more as we get more funding. This provides an opportunity for some of the youth in our community, but it also can help grow the lesson revenue. And that's one of the goals of the Equestrian Center manager, is to grow that revenue over this year and following years. So the project it was voted on by the Equestrian Committee, and it's been approved and signed off on by Flow. And now we're asking for approval from the board. So I would like to know if there's questions about it from anybody.
We usually don't take questions. It is an action item on our agenda. Okay, does anybody have any questions for Ashley? No? Okay, look.
By the way, I'm section 1, lot 390.
Thank you so much. I think it looks like a great idea, personally. Thank you.
Well, good. All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you. Now we hope for your support.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, Taylor, who's next?
I'd like to speak.
Absolutely, yes, please.
Uh,
Hi, Pam.
Hi, Pamela Knowles, Section 10, Lot 113. I'm Chair of the Rules Committee, and today on the board's agenda, item 6.1, you will consider proposals regarding smoking regulations on marijuana. And I wanted to pass along that the Rules Committee met in a special meeting May 13th. We had the general manager and the chief LOWA security with us. We certainly do appreciate their attendance. After a very thorough discussion, the Rules Committee decided, the majority of the Rules Committee decided that the current smoking regulations for now currently cover smoking marijuana. And it looked at all 4 of the proposals that the board will be considering today. And again, the majority of the Rules Committee felt that they needed more consideration if the board decided to go ahead with them. I just wanted to pass along it. This was a very unusual action for the Rules Committee to take. I hope the board will take that into consideration, that we don't often come in and advise the board, think about this twice, but we have in this case. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pam. I appreciate it. Taylor? Anyone?
Kurt Hines.
All right, Kurt, please go ahead.
Okay, I didn't realize I had asked for anything, but that's okay. I'd like to speak on the same thing that, let me get on video here, if that would help. I don't know if it does or not. Okay. I'm a member of the Rules Committee along with Pam. I live in Section 10, Lot 250, backing up to Sweetbriar. And I participated in the discussion that we had on the marijuana rules. And I just wanted to give my views as a homeowner, not necessarily as a member of the Rules Committee. I made my points clear at the Rules Committee. I'm personally of the view that all of the regulation change approaches that have been proposed at this point are excessive or unnecessary. The use of marijuana as defined in the Virginia statute or the Virginia Code, while it will become legal in Virginia, will remain illegal in public, although with reduced penalties from what there currently is. As far as I can see, all of the places that we're talking about restricting it in our regulations are public places, which would be subject to the Virginia Code. As a regulator, I don't think that we should be in the habit of cluttering up our regulations with prohibitions of things that are already illegal under state law. My personal suggestion would be that, at least for the time being, the non-regulatory approach of an article in the Lake Currents reminding residents that marijuana use in public remains illegal even after the law change, and explaining the LOWA enforcement posture vis-a-vis the Virginia law enforcement posture. That should be sufficient unless this actually becomes some kind of a problem requiring regulatory action. As part of those proposals, there are also some suggestions to further limit tobacco smoking in common areas, from anything ranging from 0 up to a complete ban on smoking in common areas. As an ex-smoker for some 35 plus years, I personally find smoking offensive, but I think it would be extremely heavy-handed to expand the existing tobacco smoking restrictions to additional areas unless there's been some kind of a serious problem, which to my knowledge has not been found. All right, thank you very much, Madam Chair. And
Okay, thank you so much. Anybody else, Taylor?
Nobody else readily has themselves unmuted. However, they have the ability to unmute themselves if they wish. So
Okay.
if anybody has anything, please
So-
go ahead and unmute.
So members, if you have any comments, please unmute and say, I want to speak. Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on. Our next item is presentation by Matilda Barone. It's on commercial vehicles on private lots. Matilda? Hi, Matilda.
Hi, Madam President, Directors. I'm here today to talk about commercial vehicle on a residential lot.
Matilda, pull the mic down just a tad. There you go.
Next slide. Yeah. Can you put that? Next slide, please. No. In this slide, you see various and numerous of commercial vehicle, from tractor trailers to dump trucks to bucket trucks to van cars with the commercial marking. Next slide, please. Our covenants state that any trucks or vehicles licensed or tagged as a truck should not be parked on residential lot overnight. Next slide, please. Also, our Regulation 5 state that any trucks, commercial vehicles, farm use vehicles, and landscape equipment are prohibited to be parked on a residential lot overnight between the hours of 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. Next slide, please. These particular vehicles that I just stated, they should be parked in an enclosed garage or should have a screening with a section of decorative lattice. These vehicles should not be visible from the street, from the golf course, or from the lakes. Also, they can cover the vehicle with fitting covers, no tarps, just a cover that can cover the whole vehicle. And also, we offer in the regulation that they can use blank magnetic signs. Next slide, please. Oh. You'd like me to continue?
You know what, Matilda, you can just read the slides.
Okay. I have the enforcement steps. Look, this is the covenants that what I stated before, that the vehicles, the trucks, or any license as a truck, they're not allowed. So our steps for the enforcement are, step one, we will have security patrol at night after the hours of 11 p.m. They will take a photo. Yep. They will take photos, they will write the address, and they will contact the ECC department. Next slide, please. At this point, the ECC will create a letter. We'll get the information of the member through Jonas. We will add the photos. We will state the violation in the letter. Also, we give the time frame, which usually the time frame is 14 days. At this point, we will mail the letter. Next slide. After the 14 days, we have a reinspection step. Security will go back and reinspect the property. If the violation is not corrected, we will send a follow-up letter. And at this point, it could be up to 3 letters. If it's correct, it's fantastic. Next slide, please. After the 14 days, after the 3rd letters, it's actually now not anymore 14 days, but it's basically 30 days or longer, and the violation is not corrected. The ECC department is requesting that we'll ask the board to take action. So at this point, we notify the member. We will state in the letter that at the next board meeting, the board will take action to correct the violation. Next slide, please. If the violation is not corrected, have to the board take action, stated it, and give it more time to correct the violation. So at this point, we will ask the board to approve a demand letter, which demand letter is a letter from the attorney. And once again, the lawyer will state in here the violation, will state our rules and regulation, will give an extra time to correct the violation. But sometimes it doesn't work with the demand letter, so at this point, we have to proceed with the court case. Next step, please. We do have a challenge here. And these are the three type of challenge. The lot here are not a big lot. An average lot, it could go from a 60 feet wide to a 75 feet wide, which a house, it could be a 55 feet wide. So you will have 10 feet on each side of parking a commercial vehicle. As you know, it's very difficult to park on the side of the house, a big truck or a big van. So we do require to screen it with ladders. But as you know, any structure over 9 inches high, it can be built in a setback. So outside setback here is 8 feet. So majority of the homes in here, they don't have more than 10 feet. So screening, it's not a good thing. So another challenge is a location of the lot. So you will have the lot, it could be a corner lot. So it faces two sides of the street. So it's very hard to screen it to camouflage that vehicle. Also, if the lot it's on the golf course or on the lake. So as I stated before, these vehicles, they need to be very inconspicuous. And also it's the size of the vehicle. If it's, like I said, a truck, it's difficult to cover that truck every night or, in order to park on our lot. So, next slide, please. Here are some pictures of screening with ladders. As you see, the second picture on the right, you really do not notice that there is a truck behind that section of ladders, because besides they have ladders, they have some kind of vines or plants going through it, so it's really inconspicuous. The other picture, the first picture on the left, also it's in the front of the house, a section of decorative ladders, which that's another form of screening that it's possible to have that vehicle there parked and be inconspicuous. Any questions?
Phil?
I really appreciate Matilda coming in and doing this. You may know that she represented us in court just a few weeks ago and successfully represented us in a court case that went all the way through the process with the members. A lot that they wouldn't clean up their lot. They had some structures on the lot that wouldn't comply with our declaration. So Matilda is a veteran of court now. She's gone all the way through the process. Here you have a board goal that said you want to look at commercial vehicle parking on private lots, and I wanted Matilda to follow the results you got from the survey to let you know how this is a hard task. As she said, if you have a 50-foot wide house and you have a 60-foot wide lot, where are you going to put this vehicle and screen it? It's going to be a tough job. So I had a couple of questions for Matilda that I thought might be helpful. to your discussion, and then I wanted to make a comment about signs, because we all know a sign has to be authorized to be on a lot. It has to be authorized by the ECC. So Matilda, do you ever tell a lot owner that there's just no way they can screen their vehicle and they have to not keep it on the lot, and how's that received?
Well, it's never received that well, but we always had give them suggestion how they can park or they cannot park. But in these cases, like I stated before, is really hard to give suggestion, and the members are really upset, and some people want it, but when we show them that the covenants is prohibit these vehicles, some of the members, they do understand, and they try to find any other way to park these vehicles somewhere else.
Okay. And the other question I had is, do you believe if the association removed the requirement that you screen a vehicle, do you think we would have more vehicles moving into our community?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
Well, because this community is really, right now, as you see, we have a lot of people moving in this community. And I do see a lot of working people. But that doesn't mean that because they are working people, it is okay for them to to have a commercial vehicle parking on the lot. There is a different option for them to park that vehicle in another location.
Right, including maybe the RV boat storage area.
Yes.
The last point I would make is an approach to, unless the board decides they want to lessen the requirements, and if we're going to keep up with this, another approach would be to treat advertising on the side of vehicles as a sign, not necessarily advertising, but say it's an unauthorized sign, and let the lot owner know that they have to either get permission for the sign or screen it or remove it from the lot. So that may be the best approach, especially when you have a large vehicle with all over advertising. You could say that's an unauthorized sign on the lot. So I would appreciate if the board could comment on that. That looks like the approach that we'd want to take going into the future. But yeah, I think the intent, why is this in the declaration for trucks, and why do we tease this out in the regulations? It's so that when you drive into the community, you're not seeing vehicles, you're seeing homes and you're seeing yards, and to the best that we can, we want to screen these and hide these away so that you have this retreat, this beautiful community that you're going into. It's not another wide place in the road. It's a community in which we care about how the community looks to others and to ourselves. So I appreciate it, and
Sure.
you may have questions of Matilda.
I have one question, Matilda. Do you ever offer suggestions to members when they are having difficulty?
Yes, we do.
You do?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
That's important. Okay, does anybody else have a question for Matilda? Okay, seeing that. Matilda, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
For your presentation.
So at this point, we've given you the survey, we've given you Matilda's take on it. So I would say we ought to schedule a meeting to decide how you want to advance your goal. It's sort of back to the board at this point. What would you like to change about the regulation? Would you like us to continue on what we're doing? There has been a slight modification, and Matilda covered it, that we no longer use security to issue a summons to someone. Security notes that there's a commercial vehicle parked on the lot in a way that you can see the advertising, or you can see it's conspicuous, and it goes to Matilda to send them a lot violation to say, you've got to screen it or remove it. So that's a new approach that we've done since you adopted your goal. The question is, do you want us to continue on with what we're doing? Do you want to modify the regulation in some way? And this being the meeting in May, we would still have time to initiate some action before your board term ends in August.
Thank you, Phil. All right. Let's move to 5.1B. Pete?
I move the board approve the committee changes as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to present the committee changes as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. All right, Phil.
Thank you, Madam President, directors, and members. This is the GM report. It's under 5.2 in your packet, and we'll start with the discussion of coronavirus and how it affects our
Wait a sec.
amenities.
You skipped me.
Did I skip you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Referendum update.
oh, yes, I did skip Terry. I'm sorry, Terry. Okay,
I won't take it personally.
Terry, can you give us a referendum update?
And Pete later. So here's your referendum update. Fine. Aha. So as of yesterday, the 18th of May, we had 2,264 votes, which is 83 more than the last report of April 30th. So what I wanted to say about that is that back in March, the board decided to put the ballot box back in the Holcomb building. I can't recall whether we formally voted on it.
We did vote.
So we formally voted on putting it back in the Holcomb building. And I think it had been out for some time for different reasons. But because of COVID and our inability to get people to vote in other ways, we decided it would be appropriate, especially with people starting to pay their assessments, to put it back in. Recently, last Thursday, I believe, 2 board members had the ballot box delivered to them, locked, by Charlie and a member of the Elections Committee, to one of the mailbox stations. And they waved people and asked them to vote and got 22 votes, I believe. And then Charlie, the director of finance, and one of the members of the election committee came back, retrieved the locked ballot box, and took it back to the Holcomb building, where they unlocked it, counted the votes, and scanned them into Vote Now. Yesterday, Jennifer and I did the exact same thing over by the compactor, and I'm not sure exactly how many votes we got, but probably in that same area. So what I would like to propose is that we formalize that and vote to continue having places where directors go, and 2 directors if possible, and have the ballot box officially delivered by 2 people, and do it at places like near the front gate, or at other mailbox stations, or the clubhouse lower parking, things like that.
Oh,
So I move.
you made the motion.
Yes, I
Is
move.
there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve carrying the ballot box to various locations to make it easier for members to vote in the referendum. Any discussion?
I just have a question,
Yeah.
and, because I've lost track of when we moved our right limit to,
Excuse me?
our date, until when?
June,
Yeah.
June
Let me
24th?
just check my calendar and I'll tell you for sure. I think that's right. Yes, June 24th, 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay. Carl?
The ballot box that's in the Holcomb building right now,
Mhm.
you're taking it physically out of the Holcomb building and delivering it to mail stations. Is there any chance to get a second box made?
We do have 2 boxes.
Okay.
I saw that coming.
You saw it
One
coming.
stays in the Holcomb building, and the other one we take to various locations where we think people will be gathered or will be dropping by.
The second part is for Phil. The ballot box that's in the Holcomb building and the employees that are working there downstairs, are they, with each person that comes in, are they handing them a chance to vote? Are they making them aware that the ballot box is there?
They're making them aware the ballot box is there. They're not handing them a proxy ballot.
are they going, do they at least ask them, have they voted yet?
I think there, maybe Charlie could speak to that. And also, I want to say one thing about the ballot box control of the lock, et cetera, that the elections committee member and someone from administration, either Charlie or me, are there when the box is opened, and only the elections committee member looks at those to make sure that they're signed and dated and they're valid, and then we pass them on to vote now. So board members aren't looking at they can't
We're
get
not
into the
looking at
box,
your
and
votes.
it's the elections committee that looks at that. Do you want to address what we tell members when they come to member services to pay the assessment?
Does remind, I'm sorry, as much as possible, the member services staff tries to remind the members that the ballot box is there and to vote. I will say it's been pretty crazy over there, so it's not always 100%, but they try to remind them and say, as a reminder, and we have ballots, empty ballots or blank ballots that are up there on the counter so they can see
Oh,
them and
that's
they can vote.
great. That's great. I was wondering about that. Thank you so much, Charlie. Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay. Cliff?
Just briefly, Phil clarified it. I think it's important that this vote reflect that the elections committee is the one that opens it with a staff member. They're the ones that take the ballots out. They're the ones that look at them and process them.
That's right.
No member from the board is looking at it. So
No
with that
member.
understanding, I'm certainly in favor of it.
Okay. All right, let's vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Terry. Phil, I apologize. Now it is time for the GM report.
I understand. All right, that was important. We needed the referendum update because we have about a month to go before the special meeting. All right, so meetings is one of the items that's contained in our coronavirus update. And so let's look at that first. And I just gave you a copy that we worked on today, May 19. This is moving in the right direction as more and more Virginians are vaccinated. We're able to do more. And over the weekend, for example, we let the staff know at the restaurants, at the pro shop, at the fitness center, and at member services that if members are to put up a sign that says if you are fully vaccinated, that you do not need to wear a mask when you walk into our spaces, to our counters or to our restaurant. Now, our staff has their own mask policy that's separate from that, and I can go over that. But bottom line, restaurant workers are going to continue to wear masks. Anyone behind a screen is not going to wear a mask, and because they've likely been fully vaccinated. At this point, we have 60 employees that have been vaccinated. That's about 44% of our workforce at this point. So on May 14th, as you know, Governor Northam lifted Virginia's universal indoor mask mandate to align with the new guidance from CDC. We expect more to come. We expect a further easing on May 28th, which is only a week from today, and we expect a lifting of requirements June 15. So if you'll notice, the handout is getting lighter and smaller, and we're basically saying we're following distancing and masking guidelines. I'll hit some of the highlights, but essentially, as distance requirements lessen, we'll be sitting closer and closer together, and we'll be able to have larger indoor and outdoor groups. Some of the highlights in today's announcement, one is at the fitness center. We're not making a move today. This week we're getting ready to open the amenities. You all understand that. We're getting ready to open the pool, the beaches, all the summer amenities are getting ready to open. So we're not going over to do this today, but soon and very soon we will begin moving fitness center equipment back into the main room, and that's going to happen after the distance requirements lessen, and we can start to turn the exercise room back into a group exercise room, et cetera. So those are things we're planning to do. We're not doing today, but we're planning to do it. The most recent announcement we had on fitness center was that we're opening at 6 a.m. and closing at 9. So wanted to make sure you saw that. And the attendants come in at 3 p.m. and to close, except we're still closed on Sunday. The other big change is on community-wide events. The first concert on the point is on the 28th, when we expect this easing of requirements to be in place. And so we will follow the guidelines that are in place on the 28th. We're anticipating a large crowd. It's the first concert of the year. Unchained is the group. Very, very popular. And so we expect a big crowd on the point, and we expect a big crowd on the deck, and probably spill over to the teen point, et cetera. So we'll follow the guidelines that are placed that day, but we expect it to be eased up quite a bit. The fireworks show on September 4th, we got the good news that the ski club is going to be active this summer. They're going to start practicing 3 days a week, and they want to participate in the September 4th program. So we'll have two things that day. We'll have the ski show, and then we'll go to fireworks. And so that, I think that was a welcome announcement. The last thing would be, meeting responsibly. We're thinking about the day that we can get closer together, and then when those distance requirements lessen, then we can talk about moving meetings to classrooms. But at this point, the Marion Pronk Hall will continue to be the place for board meetings and committee meetings, et cetera, so we can have the proper social distancing. So, but we are getting those first questions about, can we move to meeting room 2 as opposed to this room? And I'm sure at this point, we do not have indoor sports here. We're going to continue to use this room for meetings. So a lot of it really depends on what happens on the 28th, and even more importantly, on June 15th. If everyone stays on track and vaccinations continue to go up, and positive cases continue to go down, we're on the right track, and seems like we're coming out the other end of this pandemic.
Yeah, that's great news. Does anybody have questions?
Just one quick. So, Phil, did I understand you correctly that when the distance regulations ease up and we can move our board meeting to one of the classrooms, that then we would consider allowing sports back in here?
Well, yes, we would consider it. I think this is an opportunity to relook at everything we're doing and say, do we have it properly balanced? I know Pickleball would like to be in here all the time. They wish this was a dedicated space, and we wonder, should we go back to all that again, or do we want to make this room available for other things? So, I think it's also a good time to think about meetings. Do we want to continue the pattern that we have right now? I would say we don't want to necessarily change from it anytime soon. So to answer your question, I could see pickleball coming back, but really, honestly, maybe not before the fall.
Okay. Well, and that's why I used the word consider.
Yes, consider.
Anybody else have a question? Go ahead, Heidi.
Just a question, Phil, for the concert on the point, because I've been asked by a number of people. So right now, it looks like we're limited to 600?
Well, that's what we had earlier, and right now what we're going to say is we anticipate that would come off, that by the 28th that won't be there, but we'll be prepared to follow the restrictions that are in place on May 28th, the day of the announcement of the easing.
And so is security going to kind of get a...
Yeah, we've got a plan in place to count people.
Okay.
I'm hoping we don't need to get into that. What it would look like is we would have everybody directed to the dock side of the clubhouse point entrance, and we would count people as they go past and get to 600, which is about peak goes, and I know some of you all go to those concerts. 600 ought to be about right, so it shouldn't be a problem even if we have to count, because the deck is a separate count.
Okay.
We'll be prepared to put into place whatever we need to.
Okay.
But we're hoping easing, that's that term easing, it's going to ease on the 28th.
All right. Carl?
This room, this gymnasium, and meeting in the classrooms, school's going to be out soon. The kids are going to want to play basketball and use this room. Is it used very much during the summer? I would think it would be by the...
Do we have informal basketball play and those kinds of things? Yes, usually in the late afternoon, but it's been the Zoom room for us for all the committee meetings.
Right.
So you know, and I know a lot of the committees, the LCC asked if they could go to classroom, to the smaller meeting rooms. And by the way, we call it meeting room 1 and meeting room 2 now, so we have to get
Yes.
used to saying that.
Yes.
But they would love to move to meeting room 2
So what's the feeling right now? Yes or no?
soon, is what I would say. Right now, we still have 6-foot difference. And, you know, look at us here. You've got LCC with the same group, plus their advisors, plus security, plus the folks that come in to talk about their summonses. They need a pretty big space unless the distance requirements lessen. So I imagine they'll drop to 3 feet, and that'll help quite a bit.
Okay. Cliff?
Do you remember when we all used to sit at the same tables? That wasn't that long ago. Anyway.
I know.
Phil, is there a chance, or is it in the forecast to open the fitness center on Sundays?
We're not budgeted for that, so we would have to say we're going to do it without an attendant. And so it's something we're talking about, but we haven't said, yes, let's move forward to with that, but it could happen soon.
The second thing is the LCC, I don't know if they talked to you or not, but they'd like to close the distance between these tables.
They can.
Is that a possibility?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
I mean, it'll make it a little more of a
It'll be
canyon, I
narrower, but
suppose.
if you could do that, I would appreciate it. They
Yeah.
brought it up
Yes,
to me the last time. They said they were going to speak with you directly. I don't know if they did or not.
they did.
Okay, but I think it would be helpful in the evening, so some of the
Mhm.
members feel like they have to be louder than others.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Any other questions for Phil? Okay, Phil, carry on.
All right, thanks so much. I'll summarize the rest of my report. Get back to it. April financials, I give you some of the collection numbers. This is the last month of the fiscal year. And so we say here that we collected another $51,518 in the last year's assessment, 2020, 2021, for a total of just over $7 million. That takes us to 98%, which we're great to see. We knew we were going to get to that 2% delinquency, and we're buttoning up the fiscal year, and we should be there. So, and you also see here that we're reporting that as of April 30, we've collected $4,475,620 or 60% of the 21-22 lot assessment. So well on our way on that. And we also have given some preliminary unaudited income statements here. I would tell you that we want to go over the financials with you at the June 9 meeting. If you remember, a few months back, we switched to, and kudos to the finance team, they were able to close out the month earlier, and we were able to show you the monthly financials at the mid-month meeting instead of the next first meeting of the month. This is a situation where we want to take a little more time and close out the month, make sure we've counted all the income and all the expenses. And so we'd like to cover that more in detail at the June 9th meeting. But we did give you a sense of where we are right now, that we did end with a positive variance. And we just want to make sure it's unaudited at this point. Of course, that we're preparing for the independent audit, and so we want to make sure it's as ready as it can be. And you'll see Charlie Manival here. I'll call on him in a minute to give his quarterly internal controls report, and we've got an attachment for that as well. Just a couple of other things before we get to that. The community center regulations were written around the time this building was built, and we looked at that regulation and decided it was over 10 years old, and we should redo it. We should revamp it. And so you're going to see that on your June 9 agenda to initiate that, to send it to the Rules Committee and to the LOWA attorney. I would tell you the Rules Committee made a few comments, and you heard Kurt speak and Pam speak, that we should not add anything that we don't need to add. We should scrutinize our rules and try to get them as tight as we can. And we couldn't agree more when it comes to these comprehensive rewrites. And you'll see that we've scaled down the regulation quite a bit. So the first one to come through will be community center. I would tell you that some others that need to be redone that are over 10 years old include the clubhouse regulation has not been comprehensively looked at in over 10 years. Also, Regulation 15 on finances has not been comprehensively looked at in over 10 years. So we're going to be bringing these to you as we go. If it's one that has a committee associated with it, like clubhouse and finance, we're going to vet those with those committees before they come to you. So this was the first one that you're going to see with the community center. Security uniforms. You may have noticed that our officers are wearing slightly different uniforms, and so here we have two of our officers pictured, and you see the bright yellow, and it's with khaki pants. I don't see how they wore those black uniforms before, those dark blue ones either. Just, for the summer, this seems like a really good uniform. I think it helps them stand out. You can see where the officer is. I gave you a supplemental report, and I'll briefly touch on that. We talked about equestrian center scholarships, and that item's going to come up later when we talk about an agreement with Friends of Lake of the Woods. Pony Camp is sold out for summer 2021, so all 7 camps are set. This is between June 21 and August 6th, and they have 8 in each group. So that's terrific news and a continued success of equestrian during this COVID environment. Lakeview, some capital projects. This is more like heads up. Lakeview Parkway resurfacing. We anticipate that at your next meeting, we'll be talking to you about awarding a contract for the Phase 2 and Phase 3 and Phase 4 of Lakeview Parkway repaving. Now, one of the things you asked us to do is look at if we can squeeze a walking path into Lakeview Parkway, and we've included that as a bid alternate. So you'll see the price on that and what it's going to take to do that. There's also there's always some mail stations, and we have a trail that's also in this package. Also, this will come up later in the agenda, the Birchside to Fairways trail along Lakeview Parkway would be taken care of in this bid package as well. So let's see, how many, I believe we had 3, we had 6 firms that we sent an RFP to, and we had a mandatory meeting on May 10, and 3 firms pre-qualified. So we hope to get 3 bids and get the best of those bids. The Wood Center freezer cooler project ran into a snag. The bids were due May 10, and we got 2 bids. We had anticipated 2 bids, and they exceeded the budget. So we could either throw it out and say, well, we just can't do it, or what we decided to do was extend the deadline to May 28 to say that we would be willing to give a little on the deadline for completion. We said we would be willing to go to September 30, and we're hoping that one of these contractors will see that with the additional time that some of these expenses can come down. We'll also probably look at doing some of the work in-house if we need to, with just the capital expense would be the materials that we bought, and of course we'll keep track of the staff time, but that won't be extra money we lay out. So the prices were just too high from the contractors, and we want to give a little more time flexibility to see if we can get that done. You'll see that roadside ditch leaf removal continues on, and we're making good progress. 63.28 miles out of the 80 miles has been completed, and we're in section 13 more recently. We've also, just in time for summer, installed some 13 new outlets at the clubhouse area, and you may have noticed our buildings department is in the parking lot today working on the concrete steps to the lowest level of the clubhouse. There was a landing that had become spalled, and we were trying to re-pour the top of that to get it in good shape. And as I said, I'd already mentioned the April financials. We'll talk more about it at the June 9 meeting. Do you have any questions for me? And if after I answer those, then if we could ask Charlie to come up and give the internal control report.
I just wanted to say one thing. the East Harbor area, Section 13, looks so much better because not only did you cut the grass and make it look nice, the roads crew also paved some of not paved it, but put tar and gravel, pieces of the roadway that had fallen off, like this high, and they fixed it all. I was amazed. So please thank the roads crew for me.
I will.
Okay, who else? You had a question? Go, Carl.
On the Lakeside Parkway resurfacing, the walk path, I can't think of a better thing to have here in the safety of the members to be able to walk or push a baby stroller alongside Lakeview Parkway, the busiest road we have in here. So I applaud you on getting those estimates.
All right, thank you.
Terry?
And I'll pass that on to staff as well.
Phil, I was just curious if we have a feel for why the two bids that we received on the cooler project were so far above what we budgeted. Because we were pretty
yes.
thorough in our effort to budget.
So I'll make an analogy to a home. Right now, the market and what the contractors, the kinds of work they can get, they can build a new home. And so we're basically asking them to come in and finish our basement. And so it's a bunch of nitpicky little projects. You got to relocate the electrical to punch a hole in the wall. You got to build a box. You got to build a fence. It's a bunch of little projects. It's not brand new construction. And so, you got to extend the sprinkler system. So it's a list of all these little things that you got to do to get it to work. And I think it's just the nature of the work is just, hey, if we're going to trouble ourselves to do, all these actions, we're going to make sure we get a decent return on it. So that's why we're looking at, well, what could we do in-house? What could, for example, we could build a fence, or what can we give you more time to do?
I don't know how much the price of lumber affects that cooler area, but that has gone up significantly, something like 180%. And it's really expensive right now.
Price of materials also contributes,
Yeah.
yes.
Go ahead, Carl.
Speaking on what you just said about building materials, plywood has gone out of sight.
Is that right?
Oh, yes.
All right. Phil, next.
All right, we're ready for our Director of Finance to come up and give the internal controller report. It's been a while since we've gone over this, so we wanted to catch you up on where we are. So, Charlie, if you would lead us through that.
Sure.
Thank you, Charlie.
Madam President, members of the board, and members of the community, it's been since August of last year since I've given an internal control update. It's about 8 months now. But it doesn't mean things haven't been going on. It just means it's been a busy time for everybody, and we thought we'd take this opportunity to catch up a little bit and give you an update of where we are. I will say what we had done over the first almost year and a half is what I would consider to be low-hanging fruit, and we picked up and did a lot of work initially to fix several items in the internal control environment. And now what's been going on is more, I would say, a little more subtle in the back end, but a lot of very important things have been going along. We've been, one of the things we have been as a kind of an overall focus as well is trying to minimize cash handling by every member of the staff as much as possible and bring that down. And we're looking at several electronic means of payment, et cetera, and I'll focus on that in my report. And we're also trying to focus on minimizing single points of failure within the staff and the operations, particularly because we have turnover. People leave and you have information that leaves with them, tribal knowledge, things like that. So we're trying to minimize that impact as well. And those are kind of the back-end things we've been working on. But overall, the finance team has been working with the other LOWA managers to continue efforts to improve the overall internal control environment, and that's also not only related to financial but operational too. We've moved a little further abroad, especially in the area of golf and the pro shop. So progress made so far under the control environment, which is the framework in which we work overall. We've been, it covers everything from tone at the top, authorization levels, segregation of duties, training, reporting, just the overall global environment for controls. We've worked in several areas to help that environment. One is to, as Phil mentioned, trying to drive the financial close down to under 10 business days, which have been pretty successful. And to Phil's point, we pretty much have our hands around everything for the financials. We're just trying to look at various things, final reserve reconciliations, some asset reconciliations and accounts, but also a potential tax exposure that we may have for the first time, which we're working on. I'm working to eliminate that if I can. We're also looking at, we've also started the annual audit, actually. This is the first week of planning right now, and our goal is this year to get that report done and sent to the board for review by the mid-July meeting this year, about a month earlier than last year, so that'll be good. But we are working on that actively with the auditors. We've also implemented some technology over the period that helps improve data and financial information handling and cash to help reduce the risk that member payment data is being compromised. So as we mentioned before, we added a third-party payment portal, which added some added controls there. They are keeping track of member data now as opposed to us, which is very good for our organization. And we've also improved our point-of-sale system at various amenities, again, where we're going, members take care of making their payments as opposed to having to have a member of the staff actually take the transaction and key punch information in. So the more we can do things like that where it's more automated, the better control environment we have. We've also implemented and installed a new banquet tracking and reporting system through Jonas, which we're now that we have banquets again, we really haven't had banquets for the last year, obviously because of COVID, but now that we have it, we're hoping to use this more and more. The goal is to get that implemented, and again, that'll help force information that's being kept by paper right now into a system that will have more access to more people in the environment, reducing the single point of failure issue that we're trying to address as well. And then we spent time tightening up overall network security and user access. In the process world, we spent, over the last several months, we've been spending a lot of time learning about the Pro Shop in detail from a finance side and trying to put more controls around that on the daily operations, the inventory control, and purchasing and receiving. We're still in the process of that, but we've made a lot of progress there. Annual assessment and forms. This year we made a lot of changes to our annual assessment process to help reduce the amount of time it takes to get it done, but also to look at forms and make sure we have our forms cover more of what we need to be covered from the membership. We've implemented some Jonas user security managements and groups. We've added groups. We've actually restricted access to people who had more access than they should have. We spent a considerable amount of time on that, cleaning that up. And we worked on changing the way the amenity daily cash handling and closing process. We made more modifications to that, and that's gone fairly well. And then we've also improved our monthly non-cash asset and liability account reconciliations, which are going to be really key for this year's audit and ongoing. We're doing most of these monthly now. Some we do quarterly, but most of them are done monthly now, which is great. And we spent a lot of time over the last several months working the annual boat registrations and storage. Our staff has really done a great job getting that back on track to where it should be. And with that in mind, procedure documentation, that's the one area of procedure documentation that we spent time on and got that updated. And we are still working on several other documents of procedures, et cetera, that are in various states of completion. And we're going to continue moving forward with those. We were pushing to do internal audits more, but with COVID lockdown, we got kind of held back on that. So we're going to, now that things are opening up more, we're going to spend more time on the internal audit function throughout and going and working on that. And that'll be coming up over the next several months. On training, we again spent time on Jonas system, educating and staff more and more on how to use Jonas. One of the things we found out is that folks have not been properly trained on it. They don't realize some of the capabilities it has. And because of that, they weren't using it effectively and as a good tool. Now it's more and more information is going in there, and it's helping everywhere. Improves efficiency, but it's also improving the controls. We also LOWA new manager training, which is something I'm working on with the HR group as bring people in, especially at the manager level. We need to get them more familiar of these systems and controls, and we're taking a more proactive role in that regard. And then ongoing IT security training. We're continuing to do phishing tests on employees and giving the training, but also doing testing to see how many staff people actually they'll get a phishing message, and if they click on it, we record it and we know who's done that. So we're by no means perfect, but we're improving. So on the risk management side, which mainly we focus on insurance. We have spent time looking at all forms and waivers. We are going through the annual insurance assessment process right now. We've started sending in new applications for potential insurance renewals, see if we can get our rates down, but also as part of that, they also ask for a lot of information as far as our processes and controls, and we're able to give it to them now, which has improved over the prior years. And then the IT information system security. We've been working with the Envario, our IT support team, to review our network security and backup. Over the last 8 months, we did do an overall server migration and upgrade. We relocated our servers from the clubhouse back over to the Holcomb building, helping to add added control there as well, physical security as well, that we felt was important. And we're continuing work on an information systems policy manual and a network and camera map. We're very actively doing those right now. And getting those done. So upcoming plans in the control environment, we're going to I've already started the work to establish an IT steering committee, and it's an internal group within the the internal managers within LOWA, and to work with everybody to look at business systems and how best to use them and better application of the of business systems applications, but also security and create a greater awareness of the of potential exposure and risk we have as an organization with all the hacking and attempts to break into secure systems. We need to educate our managers to let them know the importance of why we're asking them to do some of the things. So this is part of that process of educating and training, and also setting a direction for the IT and business systems portions of our organization. Process reviews, we're working property tracking, reporting, restaurant inventory and menu costing. I will say your menu costs are going, our costs for the menu are going up. Inflation is here, there's no doubt about it. So that's going to be an area we're focused on too, to help keep those costs down as much as possible. And we've also process reviews, deposits and advances. We're trying to do a few things to eliminate the requirements for deposits with some ideas that we have, and also do better tracking on those advances and deposits from membership. Financial reporting. We're going to continue to push to reduce the month-end close time, and then we have several projects that are in process, like the fixed asset software, getting that totally completed, development of a more specific financial reports and metrics for use internally for operations, and then we have also some streamlining of the annual budget process coming up. And again, as I mentioned, we're going to be working on some internal audits in various areas. Training is again going to be focused on the business systems and security and the overall control environment for the managers and staff. And then we're going to keep working on risk management, just continue working as much as possible to minimize the amount of risk and exposure that we have through insurance and community cameras, and also get a good disaster recovery plan in place. And then at the end, I mentioned, again, information security. The big focus is this IT steering committee and setting an agenda at the management level to make sure we're focused and prioritizing correctly where we want to go. We all have limited time, but we'd like to make sure we address those things that are really important to the organization. So we've been working on several things, but it's not as some of the things aren't as big and easy to get to, but we're still making a lot of progress, I think, in the internal control world. Any questions?
Thank you, Charlie. That was quite a detailed report. Does anyone have questions for Charlie? Charlie, do you know if all of the internal control reports are up online now?
I checked, as of last night, they were not.
I
So-
noticed.
Yeah, I noticed them last night. I haven't checked today yet. I have to
Okay.
check with Carolyn, but she has them all, and she's going to get them posted, so
Oh,
they'll
that's
be caught up in the
fantastic.
finance section of the.
That's fantastic.
And that's another
Thank
thing
you.
we did. We started uploading a lot of financial data to the website as well.
I noticed.
So
and
if
very
it
much
wasn't there in one
appreciated.
place before, so we did add that too.
Very much appreciated.
Mhm.
Cliff?
Charlie, how far along are you all in terms of the fixed asset software, getting all of our assets into that system?
We are not very far along at all. We have just started, we started, and then we had to put it on hold to do some other things. So that's one of our focuses. It was one of the goals I had internally that we wanted to get done this year, but we did not get it done. So we're going to put a push to get all that information into the fix. We're still keeping it on spreadsheets, basically. Yeah, we're not using the system as fully as we should be. So that's still on our task list.
Do you have an idea about how long it'll take to get that done?
It's not a small task. That's one of the reasons it's not done. So I'm putting in the goal for April 30th of 2022 to have that wrapped up. We are going to push for it to get it done sooner, because now that we're able to move the audit up and everything else, if we can get the audit done by mid-July this year, that basically doesn't free up from month, but it gives us more time to spend on things like that, so we can get these things done and caught up on. So.
Okay, and my last question is, I think Jennifer may have asked it, but are you putting these reports on the website for people to see?
Yeah, there's a new finance section up there on the website, and we have, I think we have 20 years worth of audit reports out there now. We have the internal control memos should be out there. We've got the monthly financials are out there for the last several years. So we're trying to push more and create a little more transparency on what we have, make it easier to get to as well.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, seeing none. Charlie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you. Okay, let's move on. We are now at committee liaison reports. Walt, I know you have something to say about on behalf of the Rules Committee.
Now, the Rules Committee, as I mentioned at our last meeting, has been working very hard. We've really, I described them as working them like rented mules. We really have put a lot of work on them, and they've been doing their job. And part of their job is to look at various proposals that we have, regulations and things, and to review them for, among other things, clarity. And what they've done is they've looked at their own charter, and they've made a series of recommendations that, quite frankly, improve the readability and clarity of the charter. I don't think that it necessarily changes the scope of the responsibilities. It just makes it a little easier to understand exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And so, they've proposed some changes here which really make for a more readily understandable charter.
So do we need to approve that?
Well, it looks like they've done a very good job.
Well, their meetings are an eye-opener for somebody, if you're not familiar with just, the level of detail they go into to try to make things easier to understand. And, we're going to be seeing them coming back to us when reporting on all these various things. And they really are looking at, not only for clarity, but are also, they're talking about reasonableness, redundancy, things like that. The word redundant got taken out and it's unnecessary, which I think is a little easier to understand again. So I think that this charter will make it a little easier for people to understand exactly what does this Rules Committee do?
Yes. Okay, and I'm assuming we're putting this on the June agenda, the first
June
meeting
9th
in-
agenda would be
June
your
9th.
action item on
Okay,
this.
so
You have
then
some more,
we'll vote.
you have some more committee charter changes
Yes,
coming, and
we
we'll follow
do.
the same pattern.
We sure do. All right, anybody else have a liaison report? Pete?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Following up on the Rules Committee and the process that we have for rules, the Board of Examiners has been following that intently for the changes to Regulation 10, the use of the rear view mirror for towing a skier or towable without a spotter. And they have updated the long-form test to reflect those changes. They have also, the boat operator safety course, plus the long and short-form boating test. Those are now incorporated into our boat operators testing. Also, along the way in that process, working with Carol and Brudor, they have incorporated some video training tips into our boat operator safety course. So now our tests match our regulations.
Okay. On behalf of Lakes, I know that Lakes has submitted their charter for board consideration as well. Anybody else? Liaison report. Cliff?
The LCC it will submit shortly changes to their charter, but at this point, they're relatively housekeeping sort of changes, since section 14 of the rules would have to be revised to do a major revision of their charter, but it's coming very soon.
Yeah.
So is planning.
Yes, that's right. I saw that one too. Okay. Then let's move on. Okay, it's time for committee reports. Pickleball, Tina.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, go for your 7 minutes.
Okay, I'm going fast. So good afternoon, Madam President and Mr. Vice President, directors and members. This is a report of the Pickleball Tennis Committee. I have headings and I'm going to point out some highlights under each of the headings. Under the committee membership, we had a big, not a snafu, but because our committee started in 2018, 6 out of the 7 voting members were slated for their term to be up. So a couple of us were going to try to renew, and I got Carl from the tennis side, and we literally made phone calls and got people to sign up so we would have a quorum when we had our meeting in April. And we were successful at doing that. Right now, I've got 2 vacancies on the pickleball side for an alternate and an advisor. And I'm hoping that we'll get some hits from the committee fair, but we're still waiting for that. Pete has replaced as our board liaison again, and we're glad to have Pete back. Under major issues discussed, COVID, of course, comes up as one of the first things that we have had to deal with. A lot of changes, a lot of restrictions. Thank heavens things are easing now. We can play with whomever we want. We can bring in 2 guests, and people have been doing that. We've been working again to get more people to sign up and become members, and we want to get back into having events eventually. I think this year we're going to probably put the tournaments on hold, but they're having round robins. They're going to do some socials and just, everything with proper distancing. And we're still using the sanitization methods and trying to keep everybody safe. The next issue was we realized it only took us 3 years to figure this out, that we had been called the Pickleball Tennis Advisory Committee. And that's what we had gone by with an acronym of PTEC. And we looked at the charter, and the charter said Pickleball Tennis Committee, period, no advisory. We spoke with Pete on the last meeting, and he said, well, it'll take an act of God to change the charter. So we said, okay, we can do that. We are now officially the Pickleball Tennis Committee, and we're called PTEC. That's what we go as the acronym. So that's been accepted by everyone. As another major issue, and this has come up several times, we used to have water that ran out to the tennis courts right near us. And apparently, and correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, but I think it burst in the winter. We would like to revisit getting water out there for so many reasons, not only for people drinking, but because of needing to clean and power wash, fill our bottles, power wash, clean the screens, the benches, the awnings, everything we have. It would be really nice to have to go all the way over to the bathroom to get some water is really farther than people are willing to do. So we would like to revisit that again. That's something we're going to bring up over this year. Next, the rentals contract was finally given to me to look at. And I had been hearing that we had a 5-year warranty on the courts. And in fact, it's 1 year. And that 1 year was completed in 2019 when they finally came out and did a little bit of repair work. They were supposed to come out because we got further cracks last year, but because of COVID and whatever Reynolds reasons, they did not make it out. So I am now dealing with that and trying to, I've talked to Reynolds and he gave me a story of, well, when it gets warm enough, but that was only a few weeks ago. So I'm not sure exactly what he's waiting for. But we know how Reynolds operates. Okay. One of the ongoing complaints that we hear about every single meeting is the registering of guests. I'm sorry, my husband just left. Hold on. I'm turning it off. Okay, sorry. He was supposed to be my phone person. The registering of guests, I know when we had Patrick, we had discussed with Phil to have it online, to be able to pay online, register online, do the waiver online. And that would be so helpful because the way we have now, everybody is still complaining and we're losing money because people get so frustrated. So we would really like to bring that up again and revisit that and see if we can't get forms online and make it easier. This shouldn't be this difficult. Okay, moving on to significant actions approved. I'm going to call it an accomplishments. If people remember when we started 3 years ago, pickleball and tennis did not want to join. We were asked to do it for a year. We did it for a year, it worked well. I said, how about give it one more year? We gave it another year, and then I pushed them to the third year. We actually made it 3 years. We did well. At the meeting last month, there was a motion made by a pickleball person that instead of having 2 co-chairs, we now go to be in line with most of the other committees and do a single chair. The motion was seconded by a tennis person that agreed, and it was unanimously voted on to do that we would go to a single chair. I was nominated and I said, okay, let's do a vice. So Carl Baer is going to be the vice chair instead of co-chairs, and his mission is to make sure I go to every meeting and he doesn't have to do anything. So that's how that's working. Moving to committee recommendations for repair and replacement capital. About 3 weeks ago, Phil gave me permission to speak to contractors and to meet with them, get them out here to do some survey work and then try to figure out what we needed done with the cracks. The pickleball courts have some significant cracks in them. The tennis courts next to it have underneath the nets cracking. The soft courts are in fine shape. They don't need anything at this point. So I have a prime contractor that I've been dealing with. He has been rounding up licensed people that he uses to talk to me and come out. Many have come out. I've got the prime and 5 others that I've heard from, and I will pull it all together and have some recommendations on the easy fix for this year and then something for the future and resurfacing as an approximate. Just give me some sort of an approximate ballpark quote. So that's all coming due. I've got one more to see. Another thing under repair and replacement, I know we've complained about our gate on the pickleball court. It's just in awful shape. I've worked with Tracy. Repairing it would be about $750, and I think that's throwing good money after bad because it's so bent up and rusty. If we get a new one, she came out with quotes that are $2,700 to $3,100. That seems awfully high for a gate. I think we need to keep looking for that. I've asked Pete about internet connectivity so that if we could, in fact, get swipe cards and cameras, and he gave me a quote of about $10,000 to get the connectivity, and then for another $5,000 to do cameras and swipe cards. And that is something I think we really need to look at in the future to keep those courts safe. Kids are still getting on. The gates is not locking properly. It would be really nice if we could pull all the amenities together and use swipe cards so that we can see who's on there. I know I've talked to Chief about it, and he really would like to see cameras out there as well, because it is very, very remote. And kids damaged it recently with rocks. They put huge holes in the courts with these rocks this big. They got in. So we do need something to be done. Committee recommendations for new capital. And by that, I'm talking like the sports center or another facility. I think that's on hold for a while right now. I think we've been dealing with enough COVID problems and things, and I will revisit that later on, next year probably.
You've had 7 minutes, so it's time to wrap it up.
Okay, I'm going to do that. My biggest accomplishment, we got $15,000 for the pavilion, and they started that. And to let you all know, it's being used a lot. I see it every day. Goals is to continue to grow the clubs, to get new members, to keep everybody safe, to try to give back to LOWA, and to get back to where we used to be with all the things that we were doing before, and I'm done.
Thank you so much, Tina.
So if anybody has any questions, ask away.
Any questions for Tina? Okay, seeing none, we will now go to Janet Klingensmith for the Pools Committee report.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janet Klingensmith. I'm the chairman of the Pools Committee. I'm happy to say we currently have a full committee with 7 voting members, 1 alternate, and 1 advisor, and are very happy that Jennifer is our board advisor. Our goal for this season, we were thrilled, quite honestly, last summer that we had any pool season. This season, we'd like to see our numbers get back up into the thousands that they were previously. So that's what we're hoping for. One of our other goals, we feel like the snack bar at the clubhouse pool has been very underutilized. And so Ryan Richardson has been very tolerant of coming to our committee meetings and letting us throw ideas at them at any way we could help, mainly with signage or even umbrellas that identify to the people on the beach that the snack bar is there and available for their use as well. So hopefully we'll see the revenue in the snack bar go up significantly this summer. We had no new capital projects for this year's budget or last year's budget. However, we worked hard in 2019 to get 2 shade structures approved and are anxiously awaiting to see if we will actually get them. We desperately need the shade restored to both pool decks. Happy to say water fitness classes are back at the clubhouse pool this year. We've completed registrations and the classes are full again. Last I heard, it looks like the swim team will be back this summer under new coaching staff, but we'll be back to having a swim team and having swim meets. Some of the activities that we're doing, trying to increase attendance, we will have dedicated lap swimming lanes again at the clubhouse pool, and a lap swim lane will be available at Sweetbriar for the first hour and the last hour of operations each day. Hopefully, if things continue trending in the way with COVID restrictions that we think, we may actually finally be able to have sports nights at Clubhouse Pool on Friday nights, where the volleyball net will be up and both basketball goals will be available to utilize those new amenities that we haven't been able to use since we've gotten the pools. We will be doing our special events. There'll be 2 new movie nights. We're going to try something new with theme days, where we will add decorations and free gifts, and if you come dressed in the theme, you get a free ice cream, something to inspire everyone to come and visit the pools. We are going to do fundraisers at Clubhouse Pool. Traditionally, that has been wine and cheese. We're working with Flow, who get our license with the state. We're going to, this year we're switching it up a little bit. We're going to do 1 wine and cheese and 1 beer and pretzel. See if we can attract 2 different audiences. And then our ever popular Soggy Doggy Swim will be returning this year. And that's all the report for the Pools Committee. Do you have any questions?
Go ahead, first Pete.
Janet, and I don't know if it's Janet or Phil, do you know if the children's water feature at the clubhouse pool's been fixed? It had the twirly things and all of that going, and then it broke.
Pete, the answer is we still have to put the handle on the crank, but we ran the other two and they're working properly.
Okay.
So those two, we just have to schedule between now and the 29th to get the handle added back on, and then the kids can crank it and make the water go into the buckets.
They seem to like that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know, based on the current COVID restrictions, that we will be able to
Yes.
open this? Okay.
Yes,
You
we're
know
going to
more-
use everything.
You knew more on that than I, so that's great news.
Okay, Terry?
Janet, I know that there was a time when the Pools Committee was working with Flo about a shade structure for the snack bar. I was just wondering what the status of that is.
Since we got that project approved, COVID came in, so we haven't had any additional fundraisers, but that is the project that we're raising funds for this year. Given the cost, I don't think we'll be able to get it accomplished in one season, but hopefully within two, we'll have that done.
Okay. Any other questions for Janet? Okay, seeing none. Oh, Phil?
One thing, the committee has been very helpful with our end of year survey of the pool, how pool operations went, how the lifeguards did. It's very important this year because we're in the third year of the Swim Club Management Group contract, and they're eligible for additional years. They're additional 2 years. So this survey this year really matters to see how Swim Club is handling it. I imagine they'll do well, but I'm just saying that we count on the committee's assistance during that time as we survey toward the end.
Yes, thank you. That's true. All right, let's move on. Okay, we're at item 6, unfinished business. Pete?
I move the board approve publishing in Lake Currents for member comment, proposed amendments to the regulation 4, individual behavior, 7, use of clubhouse, 8, use of clubhouse, and 12, use of swimming pools, 17, use of community center, and 18 again, use of fitness center regarding a complete ban on smoking marijuana and banning smoking on all playgrounds.
We're going to go with that one first.
Okay,
Yes.
may I comment on that one?
Yes, please.
Is
Wait, we have to get a
I'm
second.
sorry.
Second comments.
Second.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Pete, go ahead, make your comment.
This is, this one I think might be a little bridge too far. Complete ban on smoking marijuana.
You're talking about the version
I'm
2.
sorry, no, I've got myself confused.
This is one you
This
like.
is the one I like.
We're on version 1.
Yes, version 1. What we're trying to do, it was brought up by one of the Rules Committee members yesterday, this morning, earlier, this afternoon earlier. I'm still on vacation, apparently. The state laws prohibit marijuana smoking in public. However, LOWA is a private facility, so we're trying to get ahead of this. The state of Virginia has made it legal to smoke marijuana in private. So this one we want to try to set up so that we don't have smoking marijuana at our playgrounds, as well as smoking cigarettes at our playgrounds. We don't want children affected by secondhand smoke. So that's the opening comment. We had the board was considering 2 different versions. This is the one that I personally am in favor of.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Cliff.
I just think, well, from a enforcement perspective, I think it'd be better if we banned all smoking, but that's fairly controversial, and I get that. I can go along with this first one because I think banning smoking at playgrounds makes sense. We already ask people not to, but this bans it. So, and I think that's reasonable. I presume you won't make the second motion if this one passes, but
That's correct.
I can go along with this
Okay.
one here, although from an old rules type of thing, I would just ban it all, but I realize we'd probably have some kind of revolt if we did that, so
I think we might.
I'm okay with version 1, so to
Okay.
speak.
Anybody else? Walt?
Yeah. The Rules Committee basically said, let's not do anything right now and see what happens. And I swear I did not put them up to it. In fact, at the start of their meeting, I said I was going to not say anything because I didn't want to taint the process. So I really did try to stay out of it. This is a tough one for me. Substance abuse is a big problem in this country. I've lost a nephew to it, and I think the legislature has made it worse by passing the law that they did. We're kind of stuck with it. My initial feeling was along the lines of what the Rules Committee was recommending, that let's just sit back and see what happens before we get involved. Now, the way the law is written is, first of all, if you can find it, it's very hard to actually find the actual legislation. It basically is written in terms of you can smoke marijuana in a place where you are in your own home, basically what it boils down to. And anything like our property, even if we wanted to give permission for most of our property, we couldn't do it because it's frequented by the public. So as a practical matter, smoking marijuana is illegal on any of our amenities, any common areas here. It's just against the law. What's sort of pushed me to being able to live with version 1 is that expecting that the nuances of the law are going to be understood by the average person is, particularly a law that's 250 pages long, is I think expecting an awful lot of people, and that I think that it probably makes sense for us, even though it's redundant, to make the point that it's prohibited on our property. So I guess I'm reluctantly persuaded that for clarity's sake, we ought to do this. I think I'm a little concerned that we're sort of mixing two things together. One is responding to the marijuana legislation, and the other just smoking in general, and putting them into one consideration. However, I think that if we were going to expand it anywhere over where we are right now, playgrounds would be it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that, quite frankly, it's much of an imposition on folks to say we don't want them smoking on our playgrounds. So I'm willing to go along with that too. But I think the important thing that people need to understand is that even without our permission, it is illegal to smoke marijuana in the common areas. So it's not just, thou shalt not because LOWA said don't do it. The state says you can't do it. And so we really have a parallel set of prohibitions here. And that, do I expect a lot of confusion when this law goes into effect? Absolutely. And I hope that everybody on all sides of this will try to behave themselves, because I can see where, everybody thinks they know the law probably better than they do, and we'll try to lecture other people on what the law does and doesn't permit. So once again, I think us saying, no smoking of marijuana on LOWA property, period, that's fairly easy to understand.
Right. Okay, thank you, Walt. Does anybody else have a comment? Go ahead, Terry.
If I understand correctly, smoking marijuana is illegal today in public, but I believe in 2 or 4 years, that law will change and it would become legal in public. I could be wrong, but I guess so. I kind of wonder, what are we thinking of then? But that's just putting out there that someday it will be legal in public, and then we'll have to decide what we do. And then I would ask, why would we treat it differently than tobacco? So I support what Cliff said, and I will vote against this because I think we have to treat the two the same. I understand that marijuana is illegal in public, but I also think that it's not just children we care about when it comes to tobacco. It's, you know, our spouses, our family members, our parents, our grandparents. And, you know, we shouldn't be doing something like not banning tobacco because we think that there will be a revolt. We should be doing what we think is right.
Okay. You're obviously not a smoker, so
No,
smoking people
yes, but I used to be.
Yeah. But it's people who smoke, I don't know. It's a totally
Well,
different
but-
thing. It's not a drug. The thing is, marijuana is a kind
But
of...
it is addictive.
I'm not going to argue in a board meeting. Okay. All right. Cliff.
So who's going to enforce this? If they're smoking marijuana, is security going to issue a citation? Are we
Here's
going to
how
have
I-
our scope officers arrest them?
Okay, here's how I see it. What do we do when somebody's drinking alcohol? Let me just give my point of view. Okay, so you're drinking alcohol, it's in a bottle like any other normal bottle, and the officer's going to think you're drinking water or soda or something like that. But if you start to behave erratically, that's when they're going to stop you. And it's the same thing with the marijuana and the cigarettes. If you're behaving erratically, they're going to know that something's not quite right, and they're going to stop you. So I don't think that the enforcement is going to be as difficult as we think it is. I mean, it's going to be pretty obvious, I'm imagining. So now, Phil.
Thank you. I was going to talk about enforcement, and we also have Chief Walker on the line. I asked him to be on the line. So enforcement will be done by, if there is a complete ban of marijuana smoking on the common areas, and that's what the General Assembly created for community associations like ourselves. You can regulate smoking anywhere on the common areas, including marijuana smoking. If there's a complete ban, then that enables anyone on the staff to tell somebody to stop. But we would call security, and the scope officers would likely be the ones that were dispatched. Now, Chief can go through this, but essentially they would give somebody a chance to stop what they're doing. And if they didn't stop, then the next step would be to issue a summons to LCC if we had a local rule. And Chief can back me up on this, but the state law is a civil penalty, and the civil penalty is a $25 fine. So we have to ask ourselves, would we want our officers to give a $25 summons to Orange County Court to go down, have an officer travel down there and sit in court for that amount of time over a civil penalty? That's why I really think, and I favor, and so does the LOWA attorney favor, making our own rule for how we would handle it here. But I wonder if you could call on Security Chief just to
Sure.
He was going to double check with the Orange County Sheriff's Office and decide how it would be handled.
Chief, can you comment on this issue for us?
Good afternoon, Madam President. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yes, we hear you fine.
Yes, I have a phone call into Chief Deputy Major Lacasse to actually discuss the civil fine process for a person that's cited for smoking marijuana in a public place. But he's been so busy with the new sheriff's office, he has not been able to return my call as of today. But the way Mr. Rodenberg described it, it's exactly how we would handle it and how we handle most situations here on the property. We would approach the citizen and ask them to stop their behavior, or they would need to leave the facility. If it escalated past that, it would be a summons to legal incompliance. I think it's not really financial prudent to go to General District Court for a $25 civil penalty. We would spend more in overtime just driving to the facility than we would sitting and waiting for our time to present the case to the judge. So we would prefer to see it as a regulation that could be handled locally by your committee and not have to go to the general district court.
Okay. How would
But
we,
Mr. Dirk's interpretation of the new law is spot on accurate.
so how would we do that? Would we ask LCC to find them? Is that what he's saying?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Carl?
Yes, Chief, I know you may not have the information, but if we gave one of those tickets and they had to go to civil court, what's the estimate of the cost of the time and everything involved to send a man down there to prosecute this?
I do not have that information right in front of me, sir, but if for a $25 fine, you would probably spend upwards to over $100 or $200 per event.
Yeah, $20 an hour, easily 5 hours.
Wow. Definitely not worth it. Okay. Okay, it's moved and seconded on item 6.1. Are we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no? No. Okay, motion passes 6-1. Let's move on to our next motion. Oh, Cliff, you business. You have a lot of them, Cliff.
You ready?
Yeah, but just know that I'm not going to repeat them.
Chicken. Okay, I move the board declare that a continuing violation of the restrictive covenants exists on the lot in cases number 21-0519-01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, 07, and 08, and that the board suspend the voting rights and the use of the recreational amenities, including the main and back automatic gates, until the violation is corrected in accordance with Section 12GB of the restrictive covenants, effective June 1st, 2021. I further move the board authorize the general manager to send a legal demand letter in each case to bring the lot into compliance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, item 7.1. All in,
Can
did you have a question?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
So I'm just curious, because a lot of these are the builder, and I don't see the name of a person who owns the house.
The builder owns the house.
Okay. Does the builder live here at the lake?
The builder is a lot owner. I don't know if the builder lives at the lake.
Okay, because I was just wondering, if we suspend voting rights and use of recreational amenities, who are we actually doing that to?
We're doing it to anyone the lot owner wants to bring in as a guest or themselves. So if they come in here, they have every right to use our amenities, and if they do, then they would be prohibited from doing so.
Okay. But the lot owner is the builder?
Yes.
Okay.
Till they sell it.
Do we have another question? Walt?
Just once again, a comment for anybody watching this. Once again, this is part of our effort to put some teeth into our regulations until we pass the referendum that would allow us to charge for lot violations. Once again, it's not the question you just got from Terry makes clear, it's not as effective as being able to charge for lot violations. So once again, this is our attempting to enforce our regulations without having the teeth of being able to have charges, and it's another reason to vote for the referendum.
Right.
You just heard the discussion about the limited utility of this. Beats nothing, but it's not as good as being able to charge for lot violations.
Madam President, another
Yes.
point I'd make is we want to treat all these cases the same, and so we're treating these cases the same as we did the ones before them and the ones
Right.
after them. And I don't know if the builder's going to want to come in and use the pool or any of our amenities or come through the automatic gate, but that would be a reminder from the board that you're out of compliance with the restrictive covenants.
Okay. Pete?
Madam President, and for a builder trying to build this total number of homes being inconvenienced by having to go through the front gate and show an ID and all of that. It's going to make their job a little more difficult, so.
Would that also
should fix it up.
impact whoever they subcontract to? Anyone that they're
It would-
putting in
It
tech
would likely
control?
not. They would come through the visitor lane
If you could
anyway.
get it fixed.
Yeah, they come
I-
to control.
I think this is more just any personal use that they want to have of the amenities would be limited.
Okay. Are we ready to vote? Oh, Carl?
I was just curious, if one of these builders, employees that comes in here, and they want to go up to the clubhouse to eat dinner or whatever, how do we identify this person? We don't ask for any kind of membership card or anything at this
Right.
point.
That probably would not be where we catch them using the amenities. But you're right, we haven't done that this far, but we would for the pools, and we do for the gates. We would if they wanted to hold an event at the clubhouse or any of our amenities, we would check it against good standing, and they would come up short.
I know I see a lot of contractor-looking vehicles at the back gate fishing off the docks there. So they use that a lot.
All right, are we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. All right, Cliff?
I move the board approve entry of the lot in case number 21-0519-14 on or after May 19, 2021 to perform maintenance as stipulated in the ECC chair's letters to the individual lot owner, and that the property be billed for the costs related to such work in accordance with paragraph 14 of the restrictive covenants.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Cliff?
I move the board approve entry of the lot in case number 21-0519-16 on or after May 19th, 2021, and every 3 weeks thereafter until October the 1st, to perform maintenance as stipulated in the ECC chair's letters to the individual lot owner, and that the property be billed for the cost related to such work in accordance with paragraph 14 of the restrictive covenants.
There a second?
Second.
All right. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Oh,
Aye.
wait, were you voting or discussing?
voting.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. All right, Walt?
I apologize in advance for the length of this. I move the board approve the carryover of the following capital projects. R number 82, audio/video system. R number 138, show jumps and boxes. R number 454, slope stabilization system, main marina. R number 652, ODB leaf box. R number 735, design/planning Lakeview Harper's Ferry. R number 19-009, maintenance software. R number 19-011, security system radio upgrade. R number 19/013, pool shade structures. R number 19-014, Birchside Circle to Fairway Drive walking trail.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Once again, I think it's worth, so there's no mystery as to what we're doing here, to just briefly say that our bylaws require the board approve the carryover of capital projects, and these are projects that, which were approved in the past, where we need to, basically affirm that they're an ongoing project so they don't lapse. I think part of it is, the ones I'll point to are the pool shade structures and the walking trail. Those are ones that basically, out of prudence, we slow rolled those things because of our concern about our financial ability to pay during the pandemic. So that's just an example of, these were prudently delayed, but our bylaws require that we basically affirm that these are projects we still want to continue to do.
Okay. Right. Oh, Phil.
Yeah, I think Walt hit spot on that the reason why the list is so long this year is because of COVID and our intentional decision to slow down spending into the last quarters. The one that you saw last year was the slope stabilization system at the main marina. That is a tough one, and we're looking for a solution, but I don't think we ought to give up on it. And so I would say in a regular year, there might only be 2 or 3 of these. When I first got here, I could see why it was a bylaws amendment. There are several projects that weren't getting done, but I think our intent is that all of these projects get done, that are all important and that need to be acted on. And you can see the schedule that we have next to it. Several of them are just right. We're right on the cusp of getting them done.
Okay. Can I ask? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just curious, since some of these were approved some time ago, do we think that the budgeted amounts are still realistic, or?
So far, yes. Slope stabilization was not, but we have to have something close. It has to still be in the ballpark. So if we can get in the ballpark, we'll come back to you if we need to.
And if I understood you correctly, you said the Birch Side Circle to Fairway Drive would actually be incorporated into the paving for Lakeview Parkway.
We asked for the bid, include a bid alternate for sections of trail, and so this would be covered under that. But we have pre-designed that to decide that what side of the road it would be on and how we would work with utility poles. And we're hoping we have a good solution on that can get it done.
Thank you. Okay. I have a question. Phil, do you think we could get these done, most of them this year?
The latest, yes. The answer is yes. Everything will be done by December 2021.
Well, I noticed the pool shade structures. Do you think that can be done in time for the opening of the pool?
It won't be for the opening of the pool.
Will it be in the middle of the summer?
I hope we can get it done during the summer, yes.
Fantastic.
And we know the manufacturer, unless they have to, if they have something that they can bring in for us to install already made, we'll get it done. If they have to design something, we've seen lead times on those kinds of things stretch out.
Okay. Thank you so much, Phil. All right. Item 7.3, discussion.
We got to vote.
Final vote?
Oh, did we not vote? I'm so sorry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, now we're at item 7.3, discussion of 2021 Board of Directors election. 3 candidates for 3 seats. Potential bylaws amendment. Well, after reading our attorney's opinion, I think it is best for us to go on as we always do, with even though that there are only 3 there are 3 seats and we have 3 candidates. Because of the proxy vote, we have to have the proxy vote, or we have to have a petition with 800 people on it, and I think it's just too difficult. I think we should go through the regular formal process so that members won't be confused or upset about choosing these people by acclamation, these candidates. Okay. Other directors. Cliff?
This started by trying to save money in these circumstances and not have to send out proxy ballots. But as has been pointed out to us, to have a meeting, we must have a quorum, and to have a quorum, we have to send out the proxy ballots. So if we have to go through that whole process, I don't see why we're changing anything. The only way to change this to eliminate the need for proxy ballots would be to do something so drastic that I believe our membership would look at us as if we were trying to fix something. But this, so I think we ought to just leave things the way they are. Now, you can look at the Elections Committee standard operating procedures, and maybe there's some things in there that we could modify since maybe we don't need to do as much. But in terms of changing the regulation, I just think we ought to leave it alone. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it.
I think even with the SOPs, with that, the candidates need to be able to talk to the members. Okay, Pete?
One factor that we have now that we didn't have before, it would still probably net out to be the same thing. We have the option of telephone voting now, but, you know, we have about 3,200 names of emails that we ended up with 900 and some votes last year. Would the telephone voting make it easier to get someone to vote present? It's still voting. We have to have the quorum. That's where our hands are somewhat tied.
I just don't think that enough people will call in their vote. Because we need to have 800 proxy, a minimum of 800 proxy votes, right?
800 via electronic and/or telephone. But if you don't give everyone the opportunity, you're right back in the same square one.
So are we agreed that, oh, Phil, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Please.
I was asked by the elections chair some questions, and I wanted to provide you the answers to it. How would it work if we didn't use Vote Now? And I do have a question, and I'd like to get your advice on this about using Vote Now. We budgeted $5,000 for an election, and if we do not send letters to the members that don't have email addresses, we could save about $500. So that's one way we can do it. We can just put the notice in Lake Currents and say that's your opportunity. So that's one way. But the election chair asked me, well, how would we do it if we didn't use Vote Now? And it would look something like this. We would put the notice of the meeting in Lake Currents, and we could possibly put a proxy ballot in Lake Currents. We would also send the proxy ballot electronically to everyone that's on our list. We would have to have ballot boxes available somewhere for people to turn in paper ballots. And we would need the elections committee to do the counting, the old school elections committee count, where they would have to go through and they'd have to count how many ballots we would get. And we would announce when we've reached the quorum, and we'd have our usual action at the board meeting. Now, one question the elections chair asked me late in coming, could we have something about the candidates on the proxy ballot? And you could say, do you agree to give your proxy to the secretary or another officer for the purpose of voting for unanimous consent for the candidates 1, 2, and 3 at the annual meeting? So you could see a way that you could have their names on whatever you're having them sign, so it wouldn't be completely just a voting present, but it would be a different way of doing business than we are now. But I want you to know it is possible we could do it.
Okay, thank you for that. Having been the secretary and having an election committee that all resigned because of doing these things by hand, I am totally for using Vote Now. And I know that it costs us, but right now the election committee only has 4 members, am I right?
Something like that, yeah.
So you don't want those 4 members quitting, let me tell you. Doing it by hand, that got to be too much for them. So I think we use Vote Now. Now, does anybody disagree with that? No? So, okay. So it looks like, Phil, that we want to move forward with using Vote Now. Okay.
All right, we'll
just do
try
what
to
we
do it
always
as
have
frugal as
done.
we can.
And I think, you could leave out the forum where people gather to ask questions, but I do think you need to have the interviews, at least have the interviews where people answer the election committee questions.
do that always.
I'd say do the same process.
The whole
as we always
process.
do.
Okay.
We're just really talking about the expense of
All right.
of the
Is everybody
of the
agree?
electronic voting.
Well,
Yeah, last year, we wound up with an uncontested election last year. And quite frankly, there was a fair amount of concern of getting enough people to vote to make sure we would have a quorum. In fact, something vaguely resembling a campaign occurred to make sure there was enough people were aware of the fact that there wasn't an election and we really, really needed you to vote,
yes.
or it was going to get awkward when it came to the annual meeting. And we wound up with 987.5 valid votes. So I think if we don't, go about this in something vaguely resembling a normal way, we're flirting with not having a quorum.
Okay, I agree. I agree.
I think, also, there is technically a contest because there are two people who are going to get a 3-year term and one person who's going to get a 1-year term. So
That's
there
right.
is some level of choice to be made here. And I think my own view is I think I would prefer that the members make that decision and not pulling numbers out of a hat or something like that.
I feel the same way. All right.
Just,
Yeah, Carl?
I was just curious, if we got 3 people running, we have 2 3-year terms and 1 1-year term, shouldn't we ask those candidates which one they would like to do?
No, I think that we let people vote, let the members vote, and then it's decided.
Okay, I'm just,
I know. That's been suggested. Phil actually suggested that. But I think we should just keep the process the same so that, there's certain people who would be like so upset with the board, like, what are you doing? You're taking over or something.
Yeah.
So,
Just to clarify, my point was made,
Yeah.
if we were going to do unanimous consent, then we could have someone draw a name out of a hat. That's, believe it or not, that's the
know.
way that it's always been done year after,
Yeah.
over the decades, and we would ask Cliff if we could borrow his hat.
he has several.
Only if I charge you for it.
All right, let's move on. Heidi?
I move the board approve a Friends of Lake of the Woods project to support a writing lesson scholarship program.
second.
Moved and seconded for the board to approve a Friends of the Lake of the Woods project to support a writing lesson scholarship program. Any discussion?
So I think Ashley covered this very well in the member comments. This is to afford individuals who may not be able to afford it. I think it's a great program, and it, as she said, the equestrian committee was unanimous with this. They've been trying to figure out ways to get people out there that might not, who would love to, but might not have the means to do so.
That's right. Thank you. I think it's a great idea. Are we ready to vote? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we're now at director comments. Do any of the directors have comments? Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, I was just curious. I've been approached by the Lions Club about the roof on the Valona building and when it was going to start. There was a strong wind here about a week and a half ago, and it just blew some shingles into the parking lot. And I've been on that roof personally, and it's just a patchwork right now. And they just wanted to know when we were going to start. It was approved last year.
Yeah, if you give me a minute, I can look up to see what the schedule is.
Okay.
Should have it here.
Okay. Directors, any other comments? Okay, we'll just wait for Phil to find that project.
Madam President?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to just comment on the referendum. I mentioned a moment ago about the upcoming board election, that we'll be able to utilize telephone voting for that. However, once we started this referendum 18 months ago, and that was not part of the process at that time, and we have checked with our attorneys, it would be so easy, much easier to get a referendum done with telephone voting. However, since we did not start with telephone voting, we cannot do it now. So if you'll see around the next couple of weeks, we have Board of Directors working with the Elections Committee, taking the ballot box out to various sites, and we have had people who have come by and voted at those locations. So that's encouraging.
And
Yeah.
thanked us.
Yep, and we have some other events planned where we will be doing that. Our goal was to get to a minimum of 2,600 votes, and we're getting closer and closer. So I encourage you, if you haven't voted, if you have friends who haven't voted, there's every week a little card that Walt handed out that has how to do it. It's printed in our Lake Currents, vote electronically, or if you're not in the mood to use a computer, stop by and see us. Stop by the Holcomb Building, drop a paper ballot in the box, or come by one of these locations. It'll be convenient. But any future referendums, and hope there aren't any upcoming anytime soon, the telephone will be a usable tool that if someone isn't comfortable with a computer, they can certainly dial a telephone. So we look forward to that day, but first we want to get through this one, so please vote.
Thank you, Pete. Phil?
So I don't have the date on it. This project, it started with the new budget, so it started, we approved it last February, and it starts with the May 1 budget. We haven't set a date on it, but I know Hunter Spencer wants to get these two big projects set and underway, the asphalt project and the clubhouse roof project. So my thought is this is probably a summer project, but probably toward the end of the summer. I would think he'd want to try to get whoever, I believe it, I can't, Wilsey, I'm trying to remember the company that won the clubhouse roof to take a look at it and bid on it. But I know as a group we've said, let's get these big projects underway, and then we can look at some of the smaller projects behind it.
Thank you, Phil.
If there was some chance we could just at least get the bids right now.
Yeah.
Not only from the roofer that's going to put on the clubhouse, I'm sure he'd like to bid on it.
Right.
And get some other bids so we can figure out where we are with the budget.
Yes.
Thank you, Carl.
Thanks for the reminder.
Okay, let's go to scheduled meetings. Regular Board of Directors meeting Wednesday, June 9, 2021, Community Center, 1 p.m. executive session, 2 p.m. open session. Special meeting of the membership, Thursday, June 24, 2021, Community Center, 5 p.m. Regular Board of Directors meeting Wednesday, June 30, 2021, Community Center, 1 p.m. executive session, 2 p.m. open session. Walt?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. It's another long meeting.